Hi there, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for today's session on utilizing performance management to identify strengths and weaknesses in your workforce. We're super excited to provide tips for everybody. My name is Izzy. I am the Marketing and Client Care Coordinator here at LightWork Software, but I also handle a lot of our internal employee communication and wellness. I love working with my coworkers, especially Morgan, and I want to ensure that they have the best work environment possible so that they can succeed not only professionally, but also personally. Before I let Morgan take over, I have some quick housekeeping for everybody. If you have any questions at any point during the presentation, feel free to throw them into the chat or the question box and we'll answer them as we go. We're here to help. And this webinar is being recorded and the link will be sent out later today along with a survey that you can fill out to get a gift card for. We'll have a little raffle for that. Feel free to browse our YouTube channel and you can watch our previous webinars. With that being said, I'm going to turn it on over to Morgan, my awesome coworker. You're up, Morgan.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Izzy. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you again for joining us. My name is Morgan Lacey. I'm an account manager for LightWork Software. I'm very excited to have everyone here this afternoon. It's always exciting to see how many people are interested in learning more about best practices in performance management. I truly believe performance management can be such a powerful tool in the workplace. So today I'm going to review the ways that performance management can be used to help leaders identify strengths and areas of weakness and the difference in competencies, ratings, and tools that can be used in the performance management process. Now, I do want to remind everyone that we do have a big group here today, and since we do, I don't get very industry specific. I do try to keep things general and informational, but of course, I am always happy to connect at a later time and talk more about your process and your team's specific goals with performance management, so please don't hesitate to reach out. So with that being said, let's talk a little about what the performance management process really is. For most companies I talk to, annual reviews are the only tool they use to rate and measure their employees' performance. And I think the reason I see most companies only doing the annual review is because that's all that they can get their workforce to participate in. And even that can be overwhelming and frustrating. But when you combine the tools managers and employees need to document performance and a process that is focused on supporting and engaging employees, you create something that everyone is benefiting from. If you want a clear picture of where employees' strengths and areas of weakness are based on performance results, then the employee's performance must be based on documented behaviors throughout the year, not just what their raters can recently remember. The recency bias when rating employees can be very destructive in the performance management results. Giving employees fair and accurate ratings based on their entire year's performance will not only provide better data, but also show the employee that their leaders and managers are invested in their success. Before we get wrapped up today, I will talk a little bit about the tools that can be used in the performance management process that allow employees and their managers to engage in open and ongoing communication. But I wanted to start off today with a general reminder that the performance management process, for it to be successful and give you fair and accurate results, that it comes from not just the annual review. It comes from detailed documentation from all parties. It comes from consistently tracking and measuring goal progress. And it comes from managers who use the performance management process to learn about their employees so they know how to best support them in their professional growth. So with that brings us performance insight creates strategy. Let's talk about the insight that performance management can provide. Whether it's insight into the next generation of leaders or how employees feel about company culture, performance management can give leadership what they need to help their employees grow. Without this insight, leaders and managers can struggle to engage and retain employees. Learning about what employees see as the company's strengths and areas of weakness can be crucial to employee retention. Not taking the opportunity to communicate with employees and learn about the challenges and setbacks that they face in their day-to-day work can lead to high turnover rates. If leaders want to have an employee retention strategy, they need to know how to best support and engage their workforce. If leaders and managers create a performance management process that is focused not only on measuring and tracking employee performance, but also geared towards giving employees a voice, they'll find a workforce that gives them the insight that they need to make strategic decisions for the company and for their employees' well-being. As a company grows, not being able to define emerging leaders can hinder a company's ability to grow quickly. Performance management can give leadership insight into who on their team has the potential to lead others. This insight can help companies prepare their next generation of leaders by being able to guide and support them into the leadership role. So, the question is, what do you want from the results of the performance management process? Without taking a step back to understand what questions you want answered from the performance management results, you can end up going through the whole process without getting any real insight that allows you to make strategic decisions when promoting and growing your team. So now let's talk about how leaders can help define those strengths in the workplace. Now, just a friendly reminder, these will all be general examples of a few different categories and may not have the specifics that apply to your industry, but I think overall, they do touch on parts of the workplace that most people experience. One are some of the characteristics that help determine if communication is a strength for an employee. Now, we have all worked with someone who has wonderful communication skills. Communication is a skill that is required in almost every industry, no matter the role. But employees that demonstrate a friendly disposition and are warm and welcoming when met with requests or challenges tend to succeed in the communication category. If leaders are looking to determine if communication is a strength for an employee, they should also look at their actions and behaviors to see if they demonstrate empathy. Empathy is crucial for healthy and successful communication skills. Without empathy, employees can struggle to communicate in a tactful and professional manner. Empathy is the foundation of successful relationships. It's what allows us to understand the perspectives, needs, and intentions of others. Strong communicators are able to effectively and confidently express themselves in a professional environment, while also taking the time to ensure communications are friendly and appropriate. It's important to set expectations of professional and friendly communication in the workplace, no matter the form it's being communicated in. Once that expectation is set, then managers can track and document employees' ability to communicate in a friendly and confident manner. I would also say it's important to set the expectation of an entire workforce that empathy is a skill that is crucial to being a team player and even more important if they're looking to grow into a leadership role. If you'd like to learn more about empathy in the workplace, there is a link, or will be in the follow-up today. Be on the lookout for the follow-up email from our team. There is a link to a previous webinar that we did actually last month on building empathy, about building an empathy-driven workplace. So if you're interested in that, it is there for you. Alrighty, our next category that I thought would be general enough for our group today, but also applicable for the future of work, is technology. In today's ever-changing technology space, it's hard to keep up with what is new. But I do think there's an advantage to having technology be a strength no matter what an employee's role is. Most companies have employees interacting with technology at some point in their job role. A few characteristics of an employee that can be considered to have technology to be more of a strength rather than a weakness are employees who have computer literacy, meaning that they have the knowledge and ability to use computers and related technology efficiently. It can be frustrating when employees are not able to successfully manage an efficient process with the provided technology. It can lead to delays in production or communication. And another characteristic to look for when determining if technology is a strength is an employee's ability to recognize and avoid security threats. If employees are not able to determine and avoid security threats, it can lead to costly errors in troubleshooting. So having an employee who is considerate of what they open or what they send can help companies avoid costly downtime from data breaches. Technology is not going anywhere. So determining whether technology is a strength or a weakness for an employee can help leaders guide and promote the right people to take on a world that's run by technology. Our last category here is leadership, which I also think will apply to the majority of our group here today. Defining characteristics of a strong leader can be crucial to a company's growth. Without taking the time to set expectations of what leadership looks like in your company, employees can struggle to guide themselves into a leadership role. So let's talk about the characteristics of a strong leader. So the first one on the list is reliability. And if you've ever had a leader who's not reliable, you know how frustrating and confusing that can be. Showing up for an employee and advocating for them as a leader is what sets apart a boss and a leader. So if leaders are looking to determine what characteristics to look for in emerging strong leaders, they need to look for employees that are actively listening to their team members. These are employees who are getting all the information they can before taking action. They're the employees that know that the bare minimum for respect is to give someone your full and undivided attention. If you want a team to embrace a new leader, make sure it's someone whose priority is listening and collaborating with their team, not just someone who delegates and runs. Strong leaders are looking to move forward and know the only way they can do that is as a team. Leadership can be such a fun and fulfilling role for the right person. So using performance management to determine who on your team demonstrates these characteristics can help determine which employees are going to be able to lead others successfully. There are, of course, more categories to consider when determining employee strengths in the workplace, but I wanted to share a few categories that I thought everyone could relate to and share an example of how you can help your team start the framework of defining not only what areas you want to learn more about, but the characteristics that paint a clear picture of what it looks like for an employee to be strong in those categories. Now that we've talked about the characteristics that can help you determine if communication, technology, and leadership are strengths, we're going to review the same categories, but we're going to review what characteristics show someone is struggling. So back to the top with communication, I am sure that everyone here has or does work with someone who struggles with communication in the workplace. So we all know the frustration and confusion that comes with working with someone who doesn't listen or doesn't respond. Being able to determine and guide employees who struggle with communication is something that a lot of companies miss the mark on. Communication is what allows companies to work and grow. So having an employee that struggles to communicate, whether it's internally or externally, can create setbacks and challenges. Managers that struggle to communicate deadlines or expectations can create chaos and costly errors. So ensuring managers are always working to sharpen their communication skills is crucial to a company's overall success. Managers are who directly interact with and guide employees. Without their investment into effective communication, managers can struggle to get the message to employees who are actively working and interacting with customers. When coworkers are unresponsive or dismissive of their peers, it can cause tension in the workplace. So it's important to set clear expectations of how employees are to work and communicate with others. When employees consistently demonstrate dismissive or unresponsive behavior, and that's not addressed by a manager, it can lead to issues with retaining other employees. So I would say never underestimate the strain that an employee with bad communication skills can have on a team's overall morale. Identifying these employees with these characteristics early on and working to set expectations to keep them accountable for the way that they communicate can set a standard for a team of people to communicate in a friendly and professional way. And now we're back to technology. But now we're going to talk about some of the characteristics of an employee that struggles in the technology category. Again, technology is such a big part of today's world, so it can really hinder someone in the workplace if they are not tech savvy. I would say a sign that someone is struggling with technology is that they are an IT regular. And I know every team has one. Someone that is always getting locked out of their computer or isn't able to download something because they're not even looking at the right screen. And I'm not going to sit here and say I haven't been that person before, but I would like to add that I can usually troubleshoot my way out. And our IT team knows that if I am coming to them, I have already tried everything that they've showed me before. But when you have team members that aren't willing to do any of their own troubleshooting and are calling IT contacts as soon as they get stuck, it can cause frustration and dismissal of their problems. So, if an employee doesn't demonstrate the ability to do some sort of technical troubleshooting or is easily overwhelmed by any change in technology, they might be someone who needs additional professional development in that category to get them comfortable and confident. Because what that investment in professional development is getting them is familiar with the common spam and security risks that they need to avoid. Being comfortable with technology doesn't come naturally for everyone, but it's important to identify the people who are struggling in an effort to get them comfortable and efficient. And last, but I think one of the categories that managers and current leaders should be paying attention to, and that is struggling with leadership. Now, I am aware that everyone is not a natural leader, and that is totally fine. But it's also important to identify those people so they're not put in a position where they're leading people without the skills to do so. So, employees that demonstrate that they're able to receive feedback or adapt to change should not be considered leader should not my gosh, I'm sorry, should not consider leadership a strength. When working with a team of people, it's important to keep your ego in check. Employees that struggle to do so should not be put in a position of power. So, identifying employees that are self centered and are only focused on their own success and not the overall success of their team are not people that should be leading others. When these things are not taken into consideration when promoting, and a promotion is just based on the KPIs alone and not their ability to work with others, it can lead to loyal and dedicated employees leaving because a manager that didn't have the leadership skills needed to advocate and support them is somebody who is now leading them. So, leadership positions are challenging. Making sure employees that are put in those roles to lead and guide others have the skills to adapt to change, receive feedback, and put their ego aside is so important. Using performance management to assess and measure an employee's actions and documented behaviors to determine if they're an emerging leader or if they're struggling with leadership skills both benefits the company and the employees working for it. All right, now that we've talked about what the characteristics that you should be looking for when evaluating an employee's performance to determine whether they are struggling or succeeding, let's talk about the competencies and what their place is in the performance management process. Competencies are observable, measurable patterns or skills, knowledges, and abilities an individual needs to perform in their roles successfully. Including these competencies in the performance management process will allow for more accurate ratings as they're rating employees based on observable behavior that has hopefully been documented by managers to use when rating. Job and industry knowledge is our first category today. And again, I want to keep these pretty general for our group today, but I wanted to share some of the general questions that I think can be used or kind of reformatted to fit your industry or your team's current process because they can help assess whether an employee is struggling or succeeding in this competency. I reviewed earlier some of the characteristics that can help managers and leaders know what to look for when determining an employee's strength or weakness in a category. But these questions provide framework for asking the right questions when evaluating an employee's performance. And I want to bring some attention to the word demonstrates here because it's really an important part when rating these competencies. Because if you remember, right here at the beginning of this section, we defined the competencies as observable and measurable. So it's really important to frame the question as, do they demonstrate it? Is it something that you've observed? So just keep that in mind as we kind of go through these different competencies and these different questions. Next, we have abilities. And this might be labeled different for your team, but I thought it was a good general word to use when talking about rating an employee's ability to successfully complete their work or tasks. Again, these would be behaviors, skills, and patterns that raters are evaluating if employees demonstrate. Do they have the ability to prioritize their work and schedule and make timely and informed decisions? The ability to do so can help define their potential in a leadership role. The ability to consistently produce quality work, no matter the industry, is also something that should be considered when rating employees. Using performance management to evaluate whether an employee is demonstrating these abilities can provide valuable insight into where leaders need to invest time and money into the growth of their company. So again, it is good to keep in mind when we're rating based on competencies that we're looking for consistent, observable behavior that can be measured. So are they prioritizing? Can you see that they're prioritizing? Can you see that they're making timely decisions? Can you see that they're adapting to situations differently? So those things are very important when we talk about evaluating, not how you feel about them or if you think that they could, it's are they currently demonstrating that? All right. Last but not least, we have the competency that I really think tells a lot about an employee's potential and where they need additional support, and that is behavior. Again, that could mean something different for every industry, especially when talking about customer service. But overall, employees should be taking responsibility for their mistakes, showing up on time, and treating others with respect. Those should be the bare minimum as far as setting expectation for employees, no matter the industry or the role. And since those are the basics, it's so important that they're included in being evaluated in the performance management process. Because if employees are struggling with the basics, they need leaders to step in to make sure they're being held accountable or determine whether they're the right fit for that role. How employees behave at work can really impact morale. So it's important to let employees know that they're going to be evaluated on their behavior. And I just want to go back to that and saying that the bare minimum for employees, no matter the industry or role, is taking responsibility for their mistakes, showing up on time, and treating others with respect. I think those seem like common sense, but I also think there's something that should be included in the performance evaluation to make sure that they're showing up and at least doing that. All righty. It is also important to know who's going to be involved in the performance management process as far as who's participating in evaluating the employees. So I wanted to share a few of the different dynamics that you'll see in the performance management process and what results you usually find. With manager-only reviews, you'll find that they are surprisingly, or not surprisingly, one-dimensional and not very comprehensive. And I know that as an employee that has been through a manager-only review, that it does not feel fair. Now, employee manager allows for more open dialogue and allows employees to more easily embrace the process as they're getting to share their thoughts and documentation as well. Peer reviews can be very beneficial for companies that want to learn more about employees' interpersonal skills or collaboration skills. 360 reviews can be a great source of insight as it allows others that routinely interact with the employee that is being evaluated. Self-reviews, I think, are a great thing to provide to employees quarterly to assess where they think they are progress-wise. Allow them to document any struggles and requests that they have from leadership. And I think that the 360 review can be incredibly beneficial to anybody who has somebody that is working with all departments like operations and things like that. And also, if you'd like to learn more about the rating types in performance management, we have included a handout today that actually has that on there. So feel free to check that out if you're interested. All right. Now that we've talked about who can be involved and the characteristics and the questions that you can use in performance management to help determine employees' strengths and weaknesses, I want to review some of the different rating definitions that can be used in the process to help paint a clearer picture of where an employee falls. This can be different not only for every industry, but sometimes also by department. Rating employees, whether by numeric value or with a degree like low, medium, or high, can help evaluate employees more accurately than just comments alone. I would say the most important thing a team can do prior to using any of the rating scales that you see here is to define which each number or degree means, so it's easier to see what category or tier an employee falls into. Without defining which each one means, you can run into a performance management process where the results are just a bunch of numbers but no real results. I do want to mention, as someone who talks to people about their performance management process every single day, somebody different every single day, all of these have their place. They can all be incredibly useful and give you a lot of insight. But again, going back and defining what 1 means, what 2 means, what 3 means, what low, what high, what medium means, those can all be incredibly useful and kind of be mixed and matched on an actual review. So if you guys are ever interested in kind of going through the actual definitions of those ratings and talk about what that could kind of look like for your team's questions and where they fall into, I'm always happy to connect and talk through those. Because I know sometimes 1 through 5 and low, medium, high are great, but when you get to the end and everybody's in medium, we're like, well, what did medium mean? So just a good reminder to make sure we define those. All right. As we get wrapped up today, I want to talk a little bit about the piece of performance management process that isn't focused on defining or rating, but more so what happens after the review process. And that is providing feedback and creating an action plan. These are 2 crucial parts of the process that, if missed, can really determine the effectiveness of your team's process. And that is providing feedback and creating action plans that are based on employee and manager collaboration. So once an employee has been evaluated and their manager knows where their strengths and their struggles are, they should provide feedback, whether it is good or bad. I should note that feedback should be forward-focused and goal-oriented and be done with genuine intention. When managers provide feedback to an employee in public when frustrated, it can really tarnish the dynamic between a manager and an employee. After feedback has been provided, it's important to collaborate with the employees to create an action plan. First is to identify and agree on what needs to be improved on by the employee. Then managers and leaders should set expectations of a timeline of improvement for the employee. And last, it is so important for managers to confirm the employees have the skills and knowledge to meet the expectations set for them. Without that step, it can lead to repeat errors and setbacks. And also, if you guys would like a resource on providing feedback, I believe we have that as a handout as well today. I know for some of our repeat guests, you might have already seen that handout, but I did want to put it back out there for our newcomers. All right. So as we finish here today, I want to talk a little bit about the tools and the performance management process that employees and their managers can use to promote open and ongoing communication, so that you can document those behaviors and have that data and have that information when rating an employee, because again, the documentation is going to be a big part of the result. So for things like surveys, new hire surveys are wonderful, 30, 60, 90. That's something we do here at the LightWork software company for our new hires, and we've seen a ton of success with it. I think surveys are a great way to gather valuable information and feedback from your employees from the start, from the middle, and even at the end for an exit interview. Journals are a wonderful way to document throughout the year. I know I sound like I'm repeating myself, but I don't think that performance management puts enough focus on having the right information and the right documentation to give fair and accurate ratings. So I think journals are a wonderful way to do that. Goal setting is a great way to keep employees focused and accountable, giving them details like start date, due date, priority, status. Having all of those details can be so helpful for employees as far as guiding their efforts and letting them kind of, prioritize their own time and their efforts because you give them the details to do so. And then reviews. Annual reviews are wonderful. I do think they can give you some information, but I don't think they paint a fair or clear picture of an employee's full year worth of performance or what their strengths and areas of weakness are. I think an annual review is a great thing to do at the end of the year, and not rate someone so much as look at everything that's happened and use it to create an action plan going into the next year. I know as an employee who had just an annual review that was manager only at a past job, it does not feel fair, and it's very hard to embrace that process. These are all tools that are inside the LightWork performance management software. It is a web-based, very user-friendly performance management software that, again, gives managers and employees the tools they need to communicate, and also gives HR the tools that they need to get through the performance management process efficiently and effectively. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for joining us. We really enjoy having everybody here every month. It is so much fun seeing how interested everybody is in advocating and kind of supporting their team on the performance management side. Be on the lookout for the recording, the slide deck, a survey. We love to hear you guys' feedback. I really do appreciate it. We're working to give you guys stuff that you're interested in and want to learn more about. So please feel free to let us know if there's a certain category as far as leadership or anything else that you guys would like to know more about. I'm happy to do that. If you'd like to learn more about what we're integrated to, we'll have information there in that follow-up email as well. And definitely follow us on social media. I'm on LinkedIn. I share all of our webinars as far as articles and things like that. So thanks, everybody. I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of their week. See you next month.